Because Mike needs.
Or I need to block Mike.
Yeah, he needs to block Mike.
Very self-conscious about his back.
Are we?
Should I make myself larger than I appear?
Yeah.
Like a
Secret
bear?
Like a.
We're live.
We're live.
Oh.
Woo!
Hey everybody, welcome to Dinner with the Devs with Schell Games. My name's Dwayne, and we have a bunch of our lovely devs here about to answer a lot of your questions. We got some questions already from Twitter and Facebook, but if you just coming here, feel free to put your question in the chat. First, we'll just do a quick round of introductions, and we'll start with Sean on our far left side.
Hello, I'm Sean Patton, and I am a senior designer here at Schell Games, and I've actually been here since the beginning, so 15 years.
Yeah, it's exactly 15.
Something like that.
Like that. My name is Ryan Hall. I am an advanced designer at Schell, and I've not been here for 15 years, but the 4 that I have been here feel like good ones. It's been real.
My name is Mihao. I'm a designer, and I've also been here for 4 years.
And I'm Chris Hatch, and I'm a game engineer.
Hey, I'm Mike Lee. I'm also an engineer, and I've been here a little over 3 years.
I'm Dan Lin. I'm an advanced artist, and I've been here 4 years as well.
And again, I'm Dwayne. I'm part of the marketing team here at Schell, and I've been here a little over a year. So I'm one of the newer additions to the team. So cool. Well, we're going to get started with just some news. A lot of you have already seen our latest level of I Expect You Die went live this week. It was pretty awesome. Sean over here, he was the design director for the game and the new level, First Class. A question that we've been getting about it is how do you get like the extra ideas? Like, so how did that level, come into fruition?
Sure, yeah, I can address that. Having a level on a train was actually something that had come up during the first brainstorming for the first, issuance of the game. But we weren't sure, well, first, we weren't sure if it could be moving train or not. We didn't have time to prototype that and test that. And second, there was some questions about, well, normally on a train you see a bunch of other people, and like, how do we deal with that? So it was a fun idea, but we sort of had to put it aside for the first release of the game. So when we decided we were going to do another level, we revisited it, and we did actually we spent about a week and a half doing prototypes of moving train, having environments that sort of formed and then moved past you.
Yeah, I rode in one of the moving trains.
There you go.
I did fine, but I know not
Yeah,
everybody
I would say about 95% of people we tested did fine, but for those people who did feel sort of twinges of motion sickness, we pride ourselves on a very comfortable game, and it was too big a risk to basically release a level that could make people sick, because you multiply it by thousands of people who are going to play it, and then that's a fair number. So that said, we had some story elements for that did transfer very well to the trains blocked by something story that we ended up with, and so I think it did that those weeks prototyping did result in some good elements of the story. Addressing one of the other concerns, which was other people on the train, and by having you sort of communicate with them with the phone. If you haven't played yet, there's a phone. It's not a huge spoiler. You see it in the trailer.
It's pretty early.
But yeah, so there's other people you interact with throughout the level, and I also like seeing a lot of "I expect you to" puns in the live chat. So thumbs up for that. But
I
yeah.
expect them to whine.
Yeah. Very cool. Next thing, actually, Alan, he sent this to us on Facebook. He wanted to get an idea of how you all get your sources of inspiration for different events. So, for example, and this is your first question for all of you, what's your biggest source of inspiration for new ideas? Who'd like to tackle that first?
You got something?
I'll go for the easy one. I just play a lot of games. I try them. I'll rarely finish a game, but if something looks good, I try to get my hands on it or a demo or whatever it is. and play and do it on my phone, on PC, tablet, console, whatever it is. I spend a lot of time doing it because it's a great excuse. It's like I have to do it for work, and I get to try those. So yeah, I think there's other games.
Cool. Ryan?
Yeah, no, I'll took mine. Darn. No, you absolutely want to pay attention to what's going on out there, what's capturing people's attention. And I know, at least for me, when I play games, I'm wearing my game design glasses while I play. So you're looking not just for what's fun, but yeah, like why did they choose to do that? Oh, they probably chose to do that because that aspect wasn't as important. You're also always comparing and contrasting games. This new game seems like that old one, but why is everybody playing it on Steam right now? Like, what is this one doing differently? So, yeah, like Neil said, sometimes it's almost like a science experiment. You're just trying new stuff to see what makes it tick.
I guess as an engineer, it's sort of interesting. We get a lot of inspiration just, as everyone says, from looking at what other people are making, other games. But actually, another place where I get a lot of inspiration is just seeing other developers post stuff on like social media, on Twitter, Facebook, all those places. And it's just really cool seeing even things that are in development or really early, or things that are just made in prototypes, like for game jams, that can spark an idea in your mind on how to approach a game design problem. So.
What about you, Chris?
Do you guys want a producer in here?
Yeah, come on in. Yeah.
Here, we got John here.
Yeah, so
I think there's a chair over here.
Yeah, so for me with my inspiration, it's the same deal. If you find a game, you're like, holy crap, how the heck did they do that? And you really want to figure it out. So I'm an engineer, so I love solving problems. So a lot of the times I look at games or I look at some cool tech demo from some company, I'm just like, how in the world did they do that? And then I set out to try and do that myself. And then once I've got that down, it's a lot of fun to explore from there and just keep figuring out like cool new ways to do things that you would never think. Because more often than not, if it's cool the first time you see it, you could probably build a game mechanic around it. And if it's cool just to look at it, it's probably way cooler to even do it or incorporate it into a game. So, yeah.
And Dan.
Yeah, I think not just games, but also, life experience is important. Other mediums like movies, books, I think. Comics, yeah, I read a lot of comics. So, I think anything you can use as a source of inspiration, you can make a game from that. Whether that is something that is like fun or playable, I think that's, up to you and up to other people, and there's something for everyone, I think.
Cool. We just had one of our producers join us. If we'll give a quick intro.
Hi, I'm John Joy. I'm one of the producers at Schell Games, and been in the game industry for 7 years and made a lot of games.
Cool. All right. So Wackness 41 has some interesting questions. So we'll tackle those two together. What games are you guys currently playing that you're in love with, mechanically or aesthetically? And do you guys participate in game jams from time to time? Let's take the first part and then we'll go into the second one.
Two super good questions.
Yeah. Just real quickly, I've been playing, let's see. Actually, I've been playing I got an SNES Classic. So it's been really fun just playing older games and seeing how game design has evolved in the over 20 years since like a lot of those Super Nintendo games were made. So that's been really cool. And we do participate, at least I personally, I know a couple of other people here participate in game jams a lot. There's like a game jam pretty much every week now. And I guess at Schell, we also have an internal jam every year to help come up with new ideas and experiments. So it's something that we definitely encourage here as a part of the studio culture. So.
Yeah, the Global Game Jam. I've participated in every Global Game Jam since
Yep.
since it started.
9 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Every single one?
Every single one. And I got the T-shirts to prove it.
He mostly does it for
SeanPenn.com/shirts. I highly recommend it.
If you want to put that in the stream, SeanPenn.com/shirts.
What are you playing, Sean?
What am I playing?
Yeah.
Game-wise?
What are you in love with?
What am I in love with?
Games-wise.
I was just talking to Mia recently how Hearthstone. I've been playing Hearthstone, but then it got too big for my phone, so I had to uninstall it because I was out of space. Then I only played it on my iPad, and that was like in the evenings. And then like I haven't played it in weeks, so that's what I don't know. I'm so sad.
Wow.
That's a great story.
What a love affair. Well,
I guess my point is that was the last game I was playing.
Ah, okay.
Save us, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I've been totally obsessed with Stardew Valley again. It came out on Switch like, a year and a half ago or whatever. Played it, devoured it then, totally loved it. It was like when I'm not asleep or at work, I'm playing Stardew Valley. Sometimes I was a little asleep or at work. And now it's on the Switch, and I'm just as obsessed with it. There's just something about that game and the wiring under it that's like, just like speaks to my soul. So I'm currently getting the last few people in town to love me, max hearts. Married Leah, of course. Just got bought my cellar, so all that good stuff. And yeah, game jams. Mike mentioned our own game jam, and our internal game jam. We talked earlier about like what kind of things inspire us, and when we jam here at Schell, it's a great opportunity to have something that isn't directly involved with the project you're on, but you're like, oh man, what would that be like? Or what if like this game was smashed into this one? Or what if this board game was actually a digital game or something? So
He has wearing an Orion Trail shirt.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Galaxy Force.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that came out of a past game jam.
Yeah,
It
Orion
became
Trail.
a full game, so
And then was ported to VR.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ported to a lot of VR.
Yeah,
Right.
gear in the Rift.
Gear, Oculus, all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, play Orion Trail. If you like the jokes, I wrote a lot of them. If you don't like them, there's a guy named Dave Bennett.
Blame him for this.
I wrote a lot of them
Wrote a
too.
lot.
Yeah, he also.
Yeah, that's true.
Mike, they're going over favorite games that games that you're playing right now that you're in love with.
Games I'm playing right now?
Mm-hmm.
I only play games that other people tell me to play. So my friends recently got me into like PUBG, and I guess Destiny's out now, so I don't know, that's kind of lame, right? Like,
Boo.
What?
Debs, they play the same games we play. What?
Yeah, crazy.
StarCraft.
Oh,
StarCraft.
Yeah.
StarCraft.
Original StarCraft?
Oh yeah. Dude, it's still a thing.
Everything else is new again.
I'm gonna have to put in a +1 for the Super Nintendo Classic. It's phenomenal.
How many games are there?
26?
21, I
Is it 21?
Yeah, because it's like 20 games plus Star Fox.
Plus Star. So that's what I love. So Nintendo has a sordid history of canceling games and being very protective of what comes out, and Star Fox 2 is a prime example of trusting that instinct, because there's a reason why it was canceled. And it's interesting to experiment and see it, but it should never have come out. It didn't come out, and they're very good at knowing when to take an idea to ship and when to kill it. And
That's an important game design instinct, is knowing when to
Yeah.
what mechanics aren't working and what to cut and what to keep on developing on.
well, and even so, they take a longer view too. So they knew that game was going to come out too close to the Nintendo 64. So why show mediocre 3D graphics when the PlayStation's out, when you're going to cut into your own margin of 3D graphics? So like, it was very strategic. It helped the life cycle of their next system. And yeah, it was a smart decision to just kill it. But it had a so the other thing is, it has this asynchronous, aliens are attacking you, so you have to decide whether to go on a mission or protect your home base. So like design-wise, it has all these great innovations, but again, sometimes you gotta kill it. It's tough to be that bad guy, but
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta
Yeah,
kill bad games.
saying no to something doesn't mean that all of it was bad always.
Yeah.
That's what makes it tough.
I'm going to address one of the
Yeah,
questions
go
that
for
I've
it.
seen multiple times go by. Is so I Expect You Die is definitely a deep IP for us. I think we'd definitely like to continue working with it in the future. We don't have anything concrete we can say right now, but it's definitely something we enjoy working with. And for the Tea Time achievement, I saw one of you guys mention that.
Yeah.
I'll give you one hint. It has something to do with room service, but that's all I'm going to say. You guys find things so quick, you don't need my help.
There you go, hidden object guru. I told you on Facebook that our design director may help you out, and he did.
I will also say that there's another hidden object that no one has found yet. So, little teaser there.
Watch the stream, figure it out, find it, and get it to Reddit first. Like,
That's it. That's
one of the
it.
goals.
And then let us know, because we want to know when you find it. We want to know so bad.
Share that, just tweet at us at Schell Games.
That's right.
John, is that the one we have the pool for?
There's many things.
I will say, it's always impressive seeing all our fans play our games, because the honest truth is, like, you guys get more time, and you're much better at playing our own games sometimes than us, so.
Yeah, dude, for I Expect You Die, like, on the first level, I thought it had, like, the best time possible. And then on Reddit, someone beat the level in, like, 7 seconds.
Yeah, it's very low. It's very low. I think my best time on the car is 18 seconds.
Yeah.
That's
And
pretty
my best time on first class is 2 minutes and 55 seconds.
That's pretty good.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
What
We-
people
we-
don't know is that we're actually finding real life secret engines through speedruns.
That's right. We work with the CIA and the FBI.
Yeah.
and,
If you hear that knock at your door,
It's
you
not
got a
true.
good
They
time.
do have, like, a facility around here.
All right.
It's yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right, PSVR gamer. You told us on Twitter your VR broke. I hope you
Oh, no.
figure it out. Let's see. I think Fallen Fighter. He had a question about if you guys remember before getting into the industry, what are some advice that you guys would give to people trying to get in? Sean, you've been around for a little while. If you want to start us off with that.
Yeah, for sure. So someone mentioned game jams earlier, and game jams are a great way to get involved. When we look at people, potential hires, things like that, we look for passion. We look for making games in teams, because all the games here are basically made in teams, and you need to be able to work well with others and share ideas and take feedback and grow. And so great game jams are a great way to do that, because they're all over. You can do ones that are like not even at a place, right? You
Yeah.
can do them online.
There's plenty of ones online.
There's physical jams. There's video game jams.
And I will say, it doesn't even need to necessarily be a digital video game you're making.
Right.
I know, Sean, you recently helped organize a board game jam, and board games are another valuable resource, both for learning and just learning how to design and approach game mechanics. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then put it up on your website. Have a website or a portfolio type of thing. Whatever your discipline.
I would also say, make sure that you work on side projects that you kind of like dedicate your own time to. Like if all the projects that you work on for games are just like for school or something like that, you can never really put the whole depth of like your creative abilities and stuff to the test on just a school project. So I definitely encourage you to work on a side project. And then also, this one's really tough, is finish something and put it on the store somewhere, right? Like it could be like, the Android store, like finish. That's the
Yeah.
hardest part. That's like,
That is the
everyone
hardest
always
part.
says like the last 10% is more like another 90%,
Mhm.
right? So,
And if you don't finish, document how far you got. So what Sean
That's a good point.
just like Sean was talking about a blog or something, a portfolio, take notes and put them somewhere where you can show them to others. I think it's important to You know, it's an important insight into you as a game designer or whatever you want to be, to look at that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to think critically about your failures
Right.
is just as important as producing something awesome, right?
And also, don't be too good for any job or task. So especially now, like, you can sign up to be a remote tester. You can volunteer, you can go to play tests. There's so many ways to help out on a project. So don't think like, I'm only gonna go in if I'm like a mid-level designer or like an engineer. Like, there's so many ways where you can start, gain experience, start gaining, because the other thing is networking and connections. So if someone can vouch for you, that's better, sometimes better than a skill when they don't know who you are. So start building those connections as small, wherever you are. You know, there's always a company somewhere, some way to play test. And I always think back to the famous animator Chuck Jones, started by washing cells, because back during World War II, the plastic was super expensive. So he would have to take a finished drawing, wash it so it was clean so that animators could start. So he wasn't, too good to wash cells for reuse. So, you know, don't be too good for any job that gets your foot in the door.
Good. Any other advice? No. So, Baron von Boyce has, what advice would you give to a junior designer, or like this question, what does a strong portfolio have? What does a strong portfolio look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, especially in design, like it was kind of said in answers to the last question, like if you finished something, or if you've gotten to a point where you can't take it any further, you know, that's good. It doesn't have to have been a success, right? We talked a little bit earlier about Star Fox 2. If you made Star Fox 2, you still have a lot to talk about in the interview.
Yeah.
Well, not if you literally made it, but you probably, you know, we are hiring. But yeah, like you can learn just as much. And in fact, like places will want to know about, like, yeah, well, what did challenge you? They don't want to hear about the perfect game you bowled. Like, you knocked every pin down. I can imagine it. Like, no, we want to know, like, where you struggled, what problems did you work through. So I wouldn't be afraid in a portfolio or on a website to have it be at least partial blog centered, right? Like that was something that Mihal said, I believe. Like, what did you learn from this? What were your takeaways? Don't just present items, present stories a little bit. Like, already start having that conversation that you might in an interview about, like, well, you know, this was a crazy project. I had to do this much in this amount of time. Sounds a lot better than made levels for 3 weeks, you know, like, well, what does that mean? Like, try not to be too robotic about it. A lot of design is communication, so start with how you present yourself.
Yeah, and that information on your website can get overwhelming if you put it on your homepage. So I would definitely say, like, give it a header image, give it a quick description, and then let anybody who wants to explore more click into that. And then you can get as wordy as you want because they have an option to back out. You weren't forcing it on them. And that way you can click into it and somebody looking at your stuff can read, like you could just do a train of thought and just explain your whole process, what went through your mind, why you made a decision, give a little image, some reference. And that's huge because then that's basically, you're never going to even say that in an interview because those are quicker than any kind of long form on every single project. But this allows us, like, if we're really curious or if somebody's looking at your portfolio, they can get an idea of you, how you work with a project, and what went through your head when you were making design decisions. So going back to the Star Fox 2, even if it messed up, you being able to say this is why we chose to close it or cancel this project shows that you were aware of the different things that are important to us in development. So.
And even finishing a really bad game is still really, really hard. Like, doing anything and creating it and making it real is super hard. So, and I've worked on some bad games. Like,
Not here.
Not here.
Not here. No.
Zero. Like, the human effort to collaborate, finish something, put it on a store or box it is really, really hard. So, like, any achievement is a good achievement, especially, you know, how you can learn from it and spin it. So.
Something being bad shouldn't be the reason it's not in your portfolio. There might be other reasons. So don't put absolutely anything in, but like.
Keep your portfolio updated too. That's it's pretty common to hear someone say, "Oh, I worked on this project, but we had no idea because it's like you didn't post it, you didn't update your, you know, if you have a Tumblr or WordPress or anything, it shouldn't be too hard. So make sure as you build things, you let people actually know that you built those things."
Yeah,
especially if you're on social media or your card has circulated. Like,
Mhm.
you never know when the moment.
Oh, yeah, for
It's
sure.
not just when you went to that game jam that people might be checking your website. It could be any time.
Yeah, and it continues to be easier and easier, especially like 3D artists, those people, like ArtStation is now a go-to portfolio website. So you don't have to buy a domain, you don't have to maintain a website. There's so many options out there that get that stuff out there on the web without really any overhead besides your time.
So speaking of game jams, who was it? I think Baron asked, are there any game jams that are more credible in the industry? Or
Yeah.
if just, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer that because
I'm
I'm
the game jam guy.
Yeah, I'm sort of game jam guy, organizing a global game jam here in Pittsburgh. So you want to like the one. I don't want to say anyone is more credible than others. There are others that are more well known for sure. So things like Global Game Jam. If you've never done any game jam, Global Game Jam is a great place to start because that's a worldwide thing. It's like in over 100 countries.
Yeah.
It has thousands of people, and it's something everyone knows when it happens, which is 2018 is the last. It's the last weekend of January. I believe that's January 26th to 28th. So you should already mark that down on your calendar.
Yeah, and to jump on the global game jam while you're there, over the years, even sites like Kotaku and people like
Yep.
skim global game jam websites, and I've seen articles over the years
Yep.
that come out a week or two after that.
Yep.
So it's an awesome opportunity for publicity, but also just shows how many people are just checking it out,
Yep.
and it's a great way.
I will say the other thing, other popular ones are like Ludum Dare, which is a jam that's run 3 times a year, and there's a couple of 1-week ones like 7-day FPS.
Mhm.
But I will say, especially as a first-time jammer or someone who's just getting in, it's been mentioned before, you should look at jams that have you working in teams because teamwork is such an important skill. And in a studio like ourselves, you're not going to be working by yourself. You're going to be working with other designers, other producers, other artists, other engineers, and being able to show teamwork and the ability to work well with other people. You know, hopefully you're a nice person, so that's a good skill. That's a good skill to showcase, and being able to show that through your work and show how you're part of a larger project is something a game jam can demonstrate in a short amount of time.
Yeah, be honest about your skills if you're approaching a game jam for the first time. Don't overpromise. It's much better to have somebody that is truthful about what they can do and very willing to help and contribute and be a team player, because time is so tight. Like, I'd rather have somebody that was totally on board and ready to collaborate than someone that was more interested in working alone, but made this fancy game or mod for something. It's like, oh great, that's a lot of experience, but we've got work to do, So there's always quick stuff that you help me with.
And just in case people don't know, so a game jam is usually some amount of time you work together to make a game. So usually they're weekends, so like 48-hour type of thing, but like Mike said, some can go to a week or so, but that's what game jams are.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, and it's good to go just to meet people also, right? Like,
Sure.
maybe your game will not come out well or whatever, but you've met some people who are also interested in making games, and you can now work with them outside of that game jam. Like Mike was saying earlier, do something on the side, do something that you're passionate about, and do it with people that are also interested, right?
I'm the new Mike.
Yeah, we swap out mics.
Yeah.
We have
Well,
8
you didn't say that earlier.
We have 8 or so
Yes.
mics
It was
here.
seamless.
One's back there on the keyboard.
Yeah.
We like to have at least a couple mics at all times in a room.
This is true. We have to keep a certain mic quota. Yeah.
There's even an email list for them. But anyway.
Yeah. So,
Mics.
Sean, do you want to address the question by Hidden Object Guru? Can you do anything with the copper wires in the security console in squeaky clean?
The answer is yes.
All right. There you go. Next question.
Hang on, I have some questions. Can you? No.
They are another way to circumvent the lockdown. I'll say that much. Basically, for I Expect You to Die, we always try to have at least 2 and usually 3 ways to solve any one of the so-called blocker puzzles.
Well, isn't it true too that like you guys do a lot of playtesting, and sometimes someone will be in the headset and
Yep.
hey, I'm trying to put this in this, and I thought it would stop that. And you write it down in your notepad, and it's
Yeah.
in the game the next day. It's just that simple, right?
It's just that, no, but it is true that that's how we find out a lot of things, right? They're like, oh, and we're like, yeah, why didn't that work? Like, we should totally make that work, or we should remove it, right? And
Sure, yeah. Don't
there's-
make it feel like it should work.
there's a
Make
lot
that
of
out rubber
examples.
instead of metal, so that people.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that the cloche, the food cover on your head, doesn't stop the spear, but we just had to have that spear kill you no matter what you were wearing because of other reasons. So yeah, sorry.
That's good.
Formal apology issued by Schell
Let's see.
Games.
Are you going to do any other games for VR in the future? The answer is yes.
You already have, right?
Yeah, we are.
Water Bears VR is on the Vive.
Yep.
We got a Ride Trail on the Gear. We've got Frostbound on the Daydream. Lego Brickheads on the Daydream.
Yep. And then we're also going to be coming out on a consumer, well, it'll be school and consumer, SuperChem VR. We're working on that right now for the Phase 2 grant we got through the U.S. Department of Education. And yeah, it'll be school focused and it'll be a consumer version of that as well. So it's SuperChem is fantastic. If you haven't been to any events that we've been to show it, so just look out for that. That's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, imagine basically if you could play a different version, but similar to I Expect You to Die in school to help you learn about science. And yeah, like I know at least for me, I would have been a scientist if that were true. So that's the kind of excitement we're looking to bring to that space, and it's really cool.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, so this was from Star Trek Discovery, if you guys watch it. Were you happy to see a giant water bear on Star Trek Discovery?
Nobody saw it.
Actually, okay, so I'm kind of a Star Trek
There's a
geek.
giant water
You
bear.
hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I was actually pretty stoked that there was a giant space tardigrade in the Star Trek. I thought that was a good touch.
I'm happy to see Water Bears wherever I see them.
Anyone
I'm
else been
actually.
watching
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
the Orville?
Oh, no.
Oh, Orville's hilarious.
Yeah.
Are there water bears in it?
Yeah, what?
I don't think
Well, that would be
Exactly.
adventure.
Yeah.
No, it's like the alternate Star Trek.
Is it like Galaxy Quest?
Yeah, but
It's,
so
it's more like Galaxy Quest.
yeah, it's with Seth MacFarlane and the girl who used to be on Agents of Shield. Yeah, no, it's pretty
Yeah.
decent. Yeah. Let's see, where were we?
Advertising some show.
Yeah, that's true.
I think we went further than Man Who's Gone Before.
Yeah. Any advice for getting in the front door of a company like Schell? Well,
Playtest?
say it again.
Playtest?
yeah,
Physically
literally.
walk
Yeah,
by.
you could physically walk to the door.
There's a
If
door.
you get a
Oh,
rubber
wait.
There is a doorbell. We usually answer it.
I don't know about other companies, but you know, some companies like us will do open houses as well. And if you inquire, we'll have some time set aside when we invite people in. And yeah, I mean, like we've said too, we're at game jams, like local gaming events, likely to be Schell Games people there as well. So yeah, and always watch our website. I'm sure they would say as well for opportunities. We
Yeah.
always like grow to meet the needs of the projects that we have on the table. So we're not a studio that is likely to have locked down for 5 years. We don't need any help. It's much more like, oh, hey, we might be doing this, and we need more people for that. Okay, we didn't know that last week. Let's post something. So
Depending on where you live, there's also international game developers chapters. So Mike, who left, the other Mike, and myself, we help host some of those. You can also find, there's another sort of smaller indie game dev community called BitBridge here in Pittsburgh. So there's probably equivalent, organizations like that in other cities. Could go out to their meetings and hang out, play some games, see what they're doing, see where they're working, stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, and we just posted on our chat a link to our careers page because we're hiring, I think, 5 positions. We're a 3D artist, engineering managers, senior artists, another producer. What was it? That's 4. I'm missing one.
front office assistant.
I'm sorry?
Front office
Oh,
assistant.
thank you. And a front office assistant. So, yeah, if you're willing to come to the awesome place of Pittsburgh and awesome place of Schell Games, we're, go ahead and apply. Let's see.
Side note, Baron, I don't know if you're supposed to say it, or you're like, well, I was one of the judges, and I for Indicate and I got Giant Cop, and that game was really, really good. So,
Look
There you
at that,
go.
indie judge.
yeah.
Shout out to
supposed to say
Giant
that? I
Cop.
don't
I
know.
don't say that.
Get out.
Yeah.
Who's in
But-
the last year, right?
Yeah, we got to find another mic. So we got-
It's like this Simon Cowell.
There's 8 mics, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Simon Cowell makes his own rules. Yeah, you can absolutely be like, I play Joker.
let's see. I expect you to die online 2-player.
Ooh.
Co-op on Xbox.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So yeah, things like that are really hard though. Like any kind of multiplayer VR is difficult for a few reasons. All right, the first one, I guess, aside from the difficulties of finding someone to play with, is that having physics be authoritative for both clients simultaneously is hard. So should I explain what that means?
Go for it.
Earlier we said that we're not expected to whine, but you weren't here for that, so.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do it. So basically, like if I were to pick something up in a game, right? Like the object that I'm holding onto is normally bound by the physics of the world, right? But when I'm interacting with it, it's bound to my personal physics that exist in real life for me. And so that means that if I'm doing something to this object, like Dwayne can't, kind of, because we'd be fighting over control, and due to things like latency and like other kind of, issues that arise from being over a network, it's difficult to kind of, I guess, satisfy both players on what happens to an object. And that extends even to things like if I were to take Dwayne's phone and throw it across the room, and I'm not going to demonstrate. but
Funny, yes.
if that were to like hit another object that was a physics object, then I'm imparting some of like my physics onto another object that Dwayne might be also trying to do that to on his side, right? So
I think what Mike is trying to say is multiplayer is hard, it's even harder in VR.
So we're gonna do it.
Says the designer, not the engineer.
Yeah, that's right. So it's in production. No.
So 4-player.
So 4-player. Let's see. I've been to Victory Point Arcade before. Has anybody else?
Yeah, Victory Point's great.
for Soup Day.
Soup
Soup
Day.
Crawl.
Southside Soup Crawl.
Yeah.
If you're local to Pittsburgh, highly recommend the Southside Soup Crawl.
Never
it's in
been.
February. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
You go to 20
You
different
crawl
places.
through miles of soup.
Yeah, that's
That's a different
Where
event.
do they?
I went to the wrong one.
I want to go to Ryan's Soup Crawl. I want that one. Yeah. That sounds like a blast.
There we all were knee deep in chowder.
That's the name of my autobiography.
Knee deep in chowder.
Yeah.
Boston
15 years
made
at Schell
that.
Games.
Oh man. All right. So okay, yeah. We'll answer. We're in Pittsburgh in the States.
Was part of Magnus's question up above about like a narrative or something?
Narrative what now?
Narrative writer and a concept designer.
Yeah. So I just took the last part of that.
Yeah, sure. But I
Yeah, go for it.
definitely caught my attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, like writing and concept design is definitely difficult because oftentimes, especially on small teams, even though we're a larger company, we operate with small teams. There's usually going to be more of a demand. I mean, yeah, that's what it's going to be called. I set myself up for that, so I can interrupt myself. There's usually a lot of things to do on a team, and that makes specialized skill very valuable. But it often means that like there's more things to do than just one thing. So my advice would be, without like feeling like you need to abandon your dream of writing for games or designing concepts, try to get your feet wet. Learn how to design things in Unity. You don't have to become an expert at hard coding a game from the ground up in Unity, but maybe you can edit levels, right? Like maybe that's an outlet. So I think it's important to diversify your skills to a point, right? There's a lot of debate in terms of getting in the industry, whether you want to be a specialist or a generalist. I'm not necessarily trying to talk about that so much as saying, like, for writing specifically, it's only the biggest companies will have people that I think do just writing. So something to think about, might improve your odds. You know, I don't have a lot of technical skill, but I have a little bit of an art background, so sometimes I can bring a little bit of art to my design or something like that. So.
You get nice slides.
Yeah, thanks, man. I got nice slides. Yeah, communication. If you can use art to communicate, if you can actually prototype something yourself to help you communicate, these are valuable tools for anyone in any discipline, and design maybe most of all, since you're working between everyone. So.
Yeah, Ryan reminded me of something I wanted to say apropos the advice for new designers is, yeah, diversify your skills basically. I think you will only benefit from learning some, you know, just even if a little bit of programming, if only to edit things in Unity or scripted things better. And same goes for art or simple 3D, you know, modeling, just the basics. Like, can you make a robot out of a bunch of cubes? You know, like, it's not that difficult, and it'll actually help you take your game making that much further by yourself, or be that much more versatile of a team member.
Yep.
Even as an engineer, I wish that I was better at art so that I could like convey my ideas to like other people in a more clear manner, right? Like, it's not just the people say non-technical skills, but I don't really, I believe that all of the disciplines are technical, but that's like how others would categorize them.
You haven't read some of my fart jokes.
So, let's see. So we don't have any I Expect You to Die t-shirts yet. We just ran a second batch that will be here in a couple weeks. Like, this is new to everybody, so yeah, we're getting more shirts. Surprise!
This is one of the dev shirts that Mike's wearing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
if we had a merch store, would you guys be interested in that? Is that?
so
I want the Zippo lighter.
yeah. We talked about actually. We
talked about that.
talked about doing
Yeah.
lighters, but I think they were super expensive.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, everything in I Expect You to Die is also top of the line. Like,
Yeah.
it would need to be the premium.
Yeah, it's like platinum plated. Yeah. So, but with that in mind, we're going to do some type of social media contest with some of the shirts. So just follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that, and we'll let you know how you can get a shirt. We'll do it before Christmas, so you'll be able to cross it off your list. Let's see, Baron again. Is your new designer? You end up making or being part of a bad game. How can you learn and move from it?
Baron worked in Surflex too.
He's like, they're talking about my game.
We've all worked on a Star Fox 2 in our careers.
I wish.
Yeah, an amazing game that did see the light of day for complex reasons. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I feel like one of the main ways to learn is to make a bad game, because you just churn out all the games you can. Some of them are, of course, are not going to be as good as others, right? And you can take lessons learned, like, well, why was it bad, right? Why did I fail in this way? Why did it not work out the way I wanted to? Like, did I spend too much time trying to go with the concept? Was I not following the fun, etc.? Any more thoughts?
Yeah.
I feel like no one is born perfect. So the faster you can make mistakes and learn from them, they're further in your rear view mirror. You actually get to make bigger mistakes on bigger projects. So for me, shedding that stigma of like the project was a failure, the product was bad, like those are just like Star Fox 2 is quote unquote, like I called it, a bad game, but there's a lot that's good. So I think kind of peeling back that critical mind, the people I know who kind of never made it in the industry or had a hard time, like they were super self-critical. So the faster, like I worked on some rough games and then some better games and then some other ones, and like just being able to just find the good in the process as I moved in my career was way more helpful than counting like Metacritic scores or labeling something as like bad, good. Like, it's all a learning process. It all just needs to be done in time, and that just getting through it faster is way better than languishing on a bad title.
Yeah, try to say, you try to make a commitment that you won't make the same mistake twice if it's within your power to do so. And that way, the more mistakes you make on a single project,
That's right.
the more you won't make those mistakes again. It doesn't quite add up that way. But there's also, my current project director likes to refer to this rule of 1,000, where you have to do 1,000 bad drawings before you do one good one. So that's an interesting frame of mind to take to something like game design. Make a lot of little decisions over the course of game development, and yeah, like you can't expect to get them right out of the gate. Even with the best of intentions, you're going to make mistakes. So keep making those mistakes and don't let that turn you around or be too critical.
And a quick thing I want to note is Supercell, who is like a hugely popular and company that is like makes tons of money in the mobile market. They actually throw parties for games that they can. So whether it gets greenlit or it gets canned, they still throw a party to celebrate. Because just getting through that process is very hard and is something to celebrate.
The
So.
going away party for the team?
No, that when you have one hit that can pay the bills for 1,000 tries, like,
Right.
that's a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, look at any company's Wikipedia page, and you'll see all these games you've never heard about that they made, right? And they weren't great, but it's fine. Like, I think document your take this game, look at it, and think, what could we have done worse, right? And if there are things like that, then think about, okay, well, could they be improved then, like, or not, or like, if you've done something so bad it can't be worse, it's also kind of an accomplishment, right?
I think I followed that.
Basically, think positive.
We have 3 minutes left.
Okay. All right, so we are just about to wrap up. Does anybody have any closing thoughts about getting into game design, getting into Schell Games, some exciting things that we're working on that we're able to talk? We could talk about Odyssey. Yep. So one of the things that are coming up on, Ryan could talk a little bit more. That's Mike T. He's on the PC.
Hello, PSVR gamer.
And PSVR gamer, you asked earlier what I was eating. We got Noodles and Company, and we got pulled pork, mac and cheese, and I'm sorry, we have to go. And penne rosa with Parmesan crusted chicken. It was pretty good.
Asking the tough question.
Oh, I have
And cookies.
an answer for more like design stuff.
Go for it.
So, being a game designer or learning game design doesn't mean that you have to design a new game. I got my start like making custom maps for StarCraft Brood War, and then like the Test of Terran series and stuff like that. I guess no one knows about those, but anyway, so like making like maps or mods or something for existing titles, like those are great places to start, right? Because you have things to work with. You also have constraints, right? One of the most difficult things about design is that if you have no constraints, then the realm of possibilities for your design is too vast, and then you become overwhelmed with options, right? So having the constraints of like another editor and seeing what you can make out of it, like it leads to some really great things. Like if you guys ever played like the Halo game, like the Forge editor on Halo, some people made some like really ridiculous game types using the standard assets that were listed there. So
Yeah, by the same token, like we talked about using a board game earlier to prototype something you might make digitally. If you don't have access to the tools, or you are still developing your skills, build in a different engine. Sure, these are all Halo guys, but imagine they were U.S. presidents and they were doing battle chess. Extend that imagination. Build to build. Don't necessarily build something that has to be polished and public facing. Yeah. Battle Chess Presidential Warfare.
It's awesome.
It's coming out next week.
Battle Chess was a good game. I played that on PC.
Any other closing thoughts?
I would say also, like, just for your enrichment, like, actively play games, don't just passively. So like, I got my start in QA, and it was like, I actively played games and saw where their limitations were, where they could break, like, why did certain maps end a certain way. You know, view it as, don't just get lost in the experience, but view it as a thing that has finite boundaries, and, you know, certain things had to be cut and certain things weren't fully developed. So, you know, take that active curiosity. Don't just passively absorb stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I want to jump on that one too, because yeah, I play games, and I come from an art background, even though I'm an engineer here at
Thanks,
Schell.
Mike.
And with an art background, like I stare at walls and textures, and I'm like zooming in and all that stuff. And it's easy to kind of just like you said, get lost in the experience. But I would definitely take a second to question, like, how do they make this happen with whatever skill set you do have? Being like, how would I make this if I was to go make this? And you can see them do something that's made it all the way to a production product. And so you can be like, these were 1,000 no's, and this is the one yes. Why was this the yes, and why does it feel good? And trying to bring that back in as mechanics to your own games and designs would be good.
All right, and we are out of time. So thank you guys so much for chatting with us. Thank you for all your wonderful questions. Please subscribe to our channel so you'll know the next time that we're going to do this. It'll be sometime in November, maybe mid-November, since Thanksgiving's at the end of the month. But we'll make sure that you guys are aware of it. Thank you, our devs, for hanging out with us for these 50 minutes. It'd be longer, but they're cutting a giant hole in the studio, so literally, yeah. So we cannot be in the studio. So see ya.
It'll be longer next time.
Yeah, we'll do a long
Bye.
run.